We're not. All right, so Taylor Parks is with Coastal Appraisals. He is a local appraiser, has tons and tons of knowledge. I do love picking his brain, especially on like waterfront properties, because those are very unique. But anyways, Taylor, and if y'all have questions, just make sure you ask him. But he's here to just kind of help answer any questions y'all have. And then after we get done with you, we're gonna have a comp class.
A what class?
A comp class.
Perfect.
Yep.
All right, guys. I'm Taylor. I've got Coastal Appraisal Services. We are in Daphne. We do residential appraisals in Baldwin and Mobile counties. Typically, the way these things work is I can give you a little spiel about what I do. I think you guys pretty much know that. Essentially, right now, it's very difficult for us. And I know you guys are trying to get prices as high, and we're getting multiple offers. And it's tough for us chasing these numbers, and that's truly what we're doing when we have a contract, right? So if you have a contract for sale, 99 out of 100 times it's going to come in at that value, and then you could have, in the past, people would say, well, Taylor, why does it always come in at sales price? Well, because that's market value, right? And what's the point of us sticking our neck out for more money unless we actually think they got a good deal? So no, right now, have y'all had a bunch of deals killed in the last 3, 4, 5 months? Not too bad. Okay. So we are trying to adapt. There's a lot of different things that have changed for me. Pools, we used to give like $10,000 for a pool. All right. And we were so behind the times on that, because now if you see that, you see all these sales at 240, 250, 260, you see that 310, it's got a pool, right? So we're trying to catch up, and we're maybe more. So I think Kendall asked me this not too long ago, but I'm trying to do more half cost. If pool costs 40, maybe do 20 to 30. Okay. If a pool costs 60, maybe do 30 to 40. So we're trying to catch up on that kind of stuff. And that's difficult for you guys pricing it, I know.
Yeah.
And that's also, people will call and talk about pricing. How are we gonna price this? What do you think? What's this worth? It's never really a set thing, right? What it's worth. Because you take into account how the market's gonna react, and that's y'all's domain. That's where y'all are experts. I'm expert at trying to figure out how not to blow up the freaking deal and make everybody mad at me, right? So in reality, right now, people that are refining are getting completely hosed by us as appraisers, because I mean we're still putting it as high as we can, but we don't have that. No, we don't have that number that we are absolutely grasping for and trying to figure out. So know that, but there is no difference. I get this question all the time. There's not a difference in a refinance appraisal and a sale appraisal. It's the exact same thing. We have a little more guidance when it's an appraisal for a sale. So I'll go through some of the stuff that people typically ask me. To me, one of the most important things is that you guys either get square footage right or attempt to get square footage right. Because if I'm going to kill a deal, that's really the only way I'm going to do it is if I roll out to this house and it says 2,400 square feet and it's 21. I don't know any way in this market to make that work right now. That's 300 square feet at $200 a foot. I'm awful at math, but I'm going, yeah, I don't know. But anyways, it's a lot. So I don't know how. If you guys have a plan, you just go off tax for square footage typically. You can try to measure it if you want. If for some reason you do try to measure it, I can give you a couple of, it's square footage comes from the outside of a home, right? So you pull a tape around the outside of the home. Everything on the inside of that is square footage, okay? If it's got a second story, you have to add back in the walls. So you could walk up to this building if this was the second story, and we could pull a tape or shoot a laser from that wall to that wall, but then we're gonna have to add back. So a typical wall is what, 6 inches? So we can add a foot, essentially, on the end. So if we shoot this at 42.2, go 43.2. So, and I know it can get difficult when you got all these little windows. I've got this handy dandy sketch software that fixes it up for me and tells me exactly what it is. But to me, that's a huge thing, is getting square footage right, or at least just go off tax. I mean, I don't know what you teach, but
tax records like not always correct.
Correct.
So,
but at least it gives you something.
Yeah.
If I walk through a house, so Cason, it said it was like 3,005 square feet. This house is 3 stories. I mean, this house is huge. I'm like, that is not right.
Right.
So then I went to the seller and I was like, do you have an old appraisal or something showing me the square footage? Right. So they had an old appraisal and we pulled the square footage off that.
Perfect. Yeah. Fantastic.
And the MLS gives us the option to choose what our source is, and it's tax record, it's home appraisal, floor plan.
Right, taking that extra step is helpful, because I mean I did one yesterday and tax said it was 1,600. The old MLS said it was 1,600. I think when it sold 4 years ago, it was on MLS and it said it was 1,600 and they listed it at 1960. So it was just freaking pointless, and I killed the deal and they yelled at me. I don't like people yelling at me. But I didn't have a choice.
What was the square footage actually?
1,600.
Oh, okay.
It was right in there within.
So they
within
were
a few.
marketing it as
They
a
just
larger.
marked, yeah, and that's where'd you get the square footage? That's what the owner told me. I was like, that's crap. So,
Well, one of our source options is owner.
yeah, because we all think our house is bigger. We all think our house is worth more.
Yeah, so as an agent, you need to know how,
Yeah.
most people don't know how big their
And
house
a few of
is.
the other things. So say we've got tax and it says 1,600. The last time I told us, but they added a Florida room, sunroom. So a couple things about that. That is not a cut and dry answer from an appraiser, but it should be finished out like the rest of the house. Okay, so it needs floor coverings, it needs some drywall maybe. If it's one of those nice vinyl ones, okay, we can get away with it, but it needs a permanent heating, cooling source. Is a window unit a permanent heating, cooling source? You know, it's maybe something a little bit nicer to feel comfortable with that. And then if you didn't think it was counted, and the other thing is you guys can put whatever you want. You can say 350 square foot sunroom just installed. You don't necessarily have to add that because people get so caught up on square foot prices sometimes, which I despise square foot prices because they only make sense if we're doing the same. They make sense in a D.R. Horton neighborhood, right?
Right.
They don't make sense anywhere else, but we get caught up on that one down the road sold for 122 a foot, so I'm 122 a foot. Problem is you're 600 square feet bigger, so I promise you you're not, okay? So that's one thing that I have been beating into people for 15 years is not to get obsessed with square foot prices.
For those who are newer in the business, what he's saying is the smaller homes can pull more per square foot than the larger homes. You cannot put them on the same price
Almost
per square
always.
foot. Yeah.
What do you say to those people that want to pull just like price per square foot? Because my clients are like, oh well, I told them about market pricing, and then they're like, no, but price per square foot. I'm like, it's not
I would just say simply a smaller house, if all things are equal, is going to sell for a lot more per square foot.
Yeah.
So let's make sure that we get similar, within 100, within 200 square feet to
Okay.
really then be able to do that. You can still make them have the appearance that they're doing that.
But they
But
need to be
you can say,
comparable
but maybe
houses.
this one that was at 160 a foot, man, this was really nice, probably a little superior to you, and it was 400 or 600 square feet smaller. Maybe we should look at this one more, right? But I know what you guys are doing right now. You're picking the highest you think you can sell for and then adding what, like 10-15%?
Yeah, exactly.
And
That's what
then,
Taylor feels like we're doing
and then it's
anyways.
going under contract in a day.
Yeah.
I mean, I
And
get
they
it.
were like, hey Taylor, we had multiple offers.
Hey, and that's something else I'll
Edit a
tell you.
phrase for me.
Yeah, but that's something else I'll tell you. If an appraiser calls you, give them all that information, right? Say, hey, we listed this for sale on Tuesday. We had an offer on Wednesday. Before we even thought about it, we had 2 more offers. Then we went to final and best. Total of 6 offers. You know, we need that because that's how I'm
I'll
Tell,
put a
that's how
spreadsheet out
that's
with
how I'm
numbers,
telling the
too.
banks that hey, this is the reason this looks
Value it.
crazy, right? But here's the 6 offers. So that's information that we need. And there's plenty of agents that you'll call and be like, yeah, you know, good luck, thanks. I'm just like, can I get some information on it? Yeah, it's under contract. All right, bye. And so I'm
Yeah.
like, you know what? I don't want to. Maybe it makes me want to kill this dealer just because you're a jackass. So I know that I think it's been better lately. I think most people, there's not that many appraisers around here anymore. So I think most of us have a decent idea of there's going to be a few that you're going to hate and they're going to kill deals left and right. But if you ever want them to reconsider value, be kind and see.
Yeah.
And actually give them some reasons to do
I've
that.
had a few appraisers call me lately.
Yeah.
Hey, I see you have a condo and it's set to close Friday. Is it gonna close Friday?
Right.
So I'm gonna wait to submit this appraisal. Can you
Yeah.
tell me what it closed for?
And if I get an appraisal for you guys and I call you 4 days later right before I'm gonna send it out and I say, hey, can you help me with this? It means we're screwed.
That's right,
'Cause I have
yeah.
no clue. But if that's the case, maybe you do know about it for sale by owner. If you do have a
Right.
file and keep that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Because I can run that down and use it, but I might not know about it. Because in reality, I'm rolling 20 of these things a week. And so,
You're not trying to pull all that extra data.
yeah, I mean, you know, so it gets to the point where if I don't see it, and maybe I did mess up, and someone actually called me for a reconsideration of value the other day, and I had completely missed something.
Right.
It was a comp that wasn't, I do the map a lot.
Right.
I'm pulling comps, and it wasn't mapped correctly, and I never saw it. And it also
Oh, did you
didn't.
not hear that?
Hey.
It wasn't mapped correctly. So he didn't
So
find
he
it.
missed the comp.
So it wasn't.
That's up to us, the listing agent, to
It
double
wasn't,
check
it
the
wasn't
mapping.
mapped correctly and the subdivision name wasn't on it. So I would normally search by subdivision and then I will
I
map it.
had one the other day that was, I think it was supposed to be in Dunmore, but they didn't even put the subdivision name on it, and I'm like,
Yeah.
That's bad. I know, that's a
like it
mistake.
takes
Yeah,
you
so
2
it's-
seconds.
Yeah, and that's just work done up front. But so square feet would be very important. Communication with us if it gets a little sideways. And cause I promise you, I can be like sweet talk, you can be nice to me and I'll be, oh, we'll figure this out, right? But if you're like, seriously, man, I'll sell it again tomorrow if you wanna kill this deal,
Right.
then I'm gonna be like, alright, sell it again tomorrow.
Well,
Yeah.
my thing is too, I mean, we're trying to reach a common goal. Everybody wants, most appraisers are not trying to kill deals.
No,
There's a
it's bad for
few,
business.
sometimes it's
There are.
questionable.
There's
I
some,
was gonna say, we have a list.
no, there's some that are just so caught up in their conservative way and how it's been done over the years that they don't
Right.
really see that, hey, this is an appreciating market.
Yeah.
And there's always ways, if it's a really hard appraisal, you can say, you know what, I'm only going back 30 days, right? Because it has been appreciating so much. We're kind of starting to run into that, and
Yeah.
if we're running these reports, we're kind of seeing almost a little, not necessarily coming down, but it's not still going at the same pace in a
Right.
lot of different spots. So
Which
that's
is good. We need that.
that's good, but that's hurting us on time adjustments and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it will get more difficult for us as it continues to level out, because we can't continue to say.
And I think you
it's-
need
the
to
market's
know,
increasing.
as an agent, you need to be knowledgeable enough to know, I'm really pushing it, number one.
Yeah.
Or when we get multiple offers, you need to have that conversation with your seller that we can take this offer for 30,000 more, but I cannot guarantee you that it's gonna appraise for that. And when we come to that situation, we need to be prepared, because they've not said I'll pay the difference. They're just saying that I'm willing to pay.
Yeah, I'm
up to
not
this
seeing that
amount
on as many
subject to
contracts as I
appraisal.
was
That's
6
right.
Yeah,
months
there's
ago.
not as
They just
many
wanted
of
to win the
those.
contract.
That's right,
Right.
they wanted to win,
And then-
and so it's like we may not get that.
Well,
But-
used to we had like 15 to 20 offers per house. I swear it was like
Right.
so bad. Now we're getting like more like 2 to 5.
But again, give us that information, because somebody last week, he had one and it was selling for 715, and I hadn't even looked at it yet, and I could tell he was nervous about it. I was like, what's going on? He's like, man, they had an offer for 710 cash, and I told him to take it and they didn't. He's like, this is really pushed. But I was like, okay, well now I know about the 710 cash offer.
That's right.
So it should be worth 710, right?
Right.
Am I really gonna kill it over $5,000?
Right.
So I was able to make it work, but he also gave me the information I needed.
Yeah.
I guess it's
Yeah.
never crossed my mind to tell the appraiser about those kind of things, so.
I'll leave it inside the
Yeah, I
house.
mean, I
What's
guess
They
the
don't-
rule of thumb?
They don't know what
Really?
we know.
True, but I guess I
What do
just
you mean
never
about
knew
leaving
that
it?
that
What does
kind
that
of
mean?
information would help them, justify that, yes, this price is.
It's a hot house.
It goes back to
Yeah.
market
And,
pricing.
and I'm probably thinking a little bit more about 6 months ago when we were really,
Yeah.
really struggling. But we needed that information, and everybody was just so excited about what was happening, they weren't giving it to us sometimes. But here's the thing, you make $8,000 on that sale, and I can kill it for that. Believe me, I don't want to, so give me the information so I can push and make the bank. The other thing, as appraisers, we talk about killing deals. Sometimes we'll send it to the bank, and they're just like, yeah, no. They're like, this doesn't look right. You need to add a comp for this. You need to do this. You need to do this. And by the time we do that, we're like, okay, I don't know that this can work. So it's not just that we don't think it's worth it sometimes. We get a lot of pushback, especially from the bigger banks. So they're really interested in stuff has to be done a certain way. Square footage has to be bracketed. Lots of stuff like that. If it's a large site size, it has to be bracketed on both sides. So there's a little bit more to it than just, I don't think this is worth it, because I promise you I don't really care.
Well, and basements don't get the same value
and we
either.
dealt with that one. And so here's the thing about the basement. Was it you that I measured one for in Stillwater? And then you sold it? Or is that somebody else?
Not me.
Okay, somebody else. Anyway, but then I had that information, and they spelled it out perfectly. They said houses, they still listed it as 4,200 square feet, but they also put 1,600 square foot basement. And so we had the facts, and then we could just pick up the phone and say, hey, how big was this basement? Was it 16? Was it included? And they're like, no, it wasn't included. So perfect. So now we know. So my business partner did a basement yesterday, and we had all these comps already set perfect, and everything worked out perfectly because they gave us all the information we needed instead of just saying it was 3,800 square feet. And then I call and say, hey, was there a basement? Yes. Do you have any clue how big that was? No. So that just took that out of the comp pool. I cannot use it if I don't have a way of knowing. So think about that.
Because it's not like he's going to go knock on the owner's door and
Yeah,
be like, I need to go
yeah,
see your basement and measure it real
I can't
quick.
go break in. So I guess that would be the bigger things. Do y'all have specific questions? Everyone always has questions about why we do what we do.
I've never actually challenged an appraisal and succeeded.
Okay? Yeah.
Is there a way to do that? Is that what you're asking?
Well, no, I mean, I guess my point is like, I almost feel like challenging the appraiser is a waste of time.
It typically is, unless you actually have an ace in the hole, unless you actually look at the appraisal and say, man, why didn't he use this?
Or like,
And
hey
maybe it
Taylor, you
was that
literally missed a
situation.
bedroom.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I get going fast sometimes. But if you actually truly have a smoking gun, man, why didn't he use this one on the street? maybe it was like I did a couple weeks ago when I legitimately missed a comp.
Yeah.
And I changed value.
It's rare. I mean, you gotta have you have to have something loaded for sure.
We had one, and they called Tidewater, it was VA, but then it was almost like, I think that the appraiser just didn't want to pull the comps.
VA is a whole different,
It's a whole
Different
different
thing.
ball game.
to get on that VA list.
But when
I
they
feel like
say
you have to-
Tidewater, there's a problem.
Yeah, I feel like you have to
Well,
be like
then there
80
was no
years old
problem.
and grumpy.
Except for when I had somebody do a Tidewater, and I think just to buy themselves time.
Oh, really?
We ran all the comps, there was never an issue with the appraisal.
What's Tidewater?
Tidewater is
for the
Condo?
VA.
no Tidewater is when
VA
it's for
appraisal.
VA appraisal. So
I don't know.
when a VA person says, "Hey, we're sending it to Tidewater," I forget what their verbiage is, but anyways, basically the appraiser is having a hard time comping it.
Okay.
But Tidewater
That's what
is
it's
their
supposed to
word.
mean. Yeah.
Okay.
That's what it's supposed to mean, but really it meant, can you and the listing agent send me comps?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I'll send you an appraisal, and all the comps we send them were on the appraisal.
And that's what I always hate is sometimes when we ask for information, I promise with me, I can only speak for myself, but that's not what I'm asking.
Yeah.
Essentially, I'm probably struggling trying to figure out
Right.
where to go with this.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's possible. And there's still plenty of us that do this, and there's plenty of us that some suck and
I
some
mean, I've
awesome.
had Betsy call me and be like, "Kendall,
Yeah.
what are you thinking?" I'm like, "Well, this is what I'm thinking," and she's like, "Okay, well, that makes sense."
On a
Well,
sale?
Betsy, a few weeks ago,
Yeah,
she
they're-
called me and missed a whole entire room. And she was like, I think I missed a room. I was like, oh my God, you definitely missed a room. So she
Yeah,
went
and
back.
that's we all need to do a better job of that. But right now,
Yeah.
I mean, if y'all can see the stack in my office right now, it is.
So the
we're
fact that
trying
you're
to
here
move,
talking to us.
trying
Yeah.
to move, trying to move. And I was laying asphalt this morning, so I'm black on. So
Can
anyways,
you,
yes.
I was just gonna say, can you talk to us about a couple of different things, like when we're comping a property, let's just say that we are, maybe the truest comp that we can find is a 3-bedroom, but ours is the 4th bedroom. How do we know how much value to give to an extra bedroom?
Okay, so I truly don't give much value to an extra bedroom.
Okay,
Now
I do like 5K.
Now, unless if it's a 2-bedroom,
Mhm.
yes, there's a huge difference,
okay.
right? So the difference in a 4 and a 5 is negligible. You're going to get that adjustment on square footage. But so I'll give you some of our basic adjustments, like a full bath, something like $10,000. But that would change if it's the difference from a 1 to a 2.
Okay,
But I feel like most of the houses around here we're dealing with are 4-3s, right?
Right,
Everything's
yeah.
a 4-3. So if you have a 3-bedroom, but it's got a study, and I know it's not a 4-bedroom house, but you know you can throw that little kid in there when you have them if you
Right,
need to,
mhm.
right? So it's not a huge difference on bedrooms. We're trying to evolve on car storage because I get a lot of garages, because I've seen a lot of cost. If you add a garage to your house, you're talking maybe up to $30K,
Yeah,
something like
right.
that. In the past, we used to do $5,000, so I'm up to 10 to 15. So we're making progress with that. We're trying to catch up with that.
So I'm so glad you said that.
me too.
So
Did you think?
I was at a house that I had to comp yesterday. Whatever we
It's
there
a listing.
the other day. Yeah, it was a listing.
Saturday?
Saturday.
Well, I
Saturday.
know that one that we were gonna do that doesn't have a garage and everything else does.
Oh, you have one that doesn't have a garage.
Oh yeah. No, I'm not talking about that one. Okay, it's on a half acre, and it's in Stillwood, with a 3,200 square foot garage. So like a 1,600,
Stillwood,
man
like in
cave.
Lifeway?
Yeah, no,
No, Point
Stillwood
Clear.
Point Clear.
Okay.
So 1,600 square foot bonus room man cave, and then 1,600
Two
square
bay
foot
doors.
with two 15,
Bay doors.
16 foot bay doors. And I'm like, I don't even know what value to put on this thing.
Like, how do you call
Does
it?
it have-
It is huge.
Is it
It's got a
house
bathroom. Yes.
Like besides the
Yeah, it houses the RV.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so I mean, the problem is we're never going to give that as much money as it's worth.
I
to
know.
certain
So,
people.
well, how much money would
For
you?
the actual car storage part of it,
Just that
The whole building.
the car storage. Let's say the car storage is 20. All right, something
Per
like
bay?
that. No.
Total.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, and then you've got this huge room upstairs.
1,600 square foot room.
You put
At
like
$50 a foot.
He said he put 120,000.
He put 125 into building it.
125.
And I just told you to go 80 and 20. I told you to go 100.
That's what I gave it. Was
Oh, that's
100.
right.
Sure it is.
Mhm.
Go yeah, go.
Yes, that's what
But
I
at
gave
the
it.
same time, that's always going to be difficult for us to justify that in an appraisal.
I
because
can't
we're not
find
gonna
any
have
comps for
anything.
it.
But once you
That's
get
my
that
mentor.
contract on it,
Just kidding.
it's a lot easier.
That's
You
pretty
know,
good.
because then maybe we don't need to give it that much. Maybe we've got comps where we can only give it 40 or 50, but it works out if you've got
Right.
that contract on it.
There's not a
What
lot
would
of
you
options
compare
for
that to?
RV.
There's not,
Around here.
and so like there's probably just that buyer sitting out there. But
Right.
Bree just asked a good question. She said, "Is there like a cheat sheet list?"
You have like a list y'all could use that we
My-
could reference for stuff?
As far as dollar amounts?
No, like
It's their brain.
like like a 2-car garage versus a 3-car garage, or if they have a pool, or if they have
Yeah, so,
like, what
okay.
it would be.
I
Or like
don't.
you're saying the pool half.
I don't,
I'm
but
sorry.
so I'm a big fan of let's say 50 to 65% of cost for a pool right now.
Even if they have like
But I didn't know
really
if you
nice-
had, like, a-
But
Does
it
that
doesn't matter because you
The
still have
second
cost.
buyer on the
Okay.
pool wins. The
So
first
if it's-
buyer spends
Yeah.
the money. The second buyer benefits.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but you are seeing them sell for so much more now. So if it's an $80,000 pool, it has to contribute $40,000,
Yeah.
and it may be more like 50 or 55.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's how I'm looking at that. As far as the cheat sheet, I don't, but you can ask me any questions. Say if I'm going to give $12,000 to $15,000 for a 2-car garage, I would probably give another 6 or 7 for that third one.
12 to 50. Okay, so April and I have another seller who everybody in this neighborhood has a 2-car garage except for them.
Yeah.
So take 12 to 50.
That buyer
So
wanted to
take 12 to
have a push-push
15,000
RV.
off.
I'd say if everyone else has it,
Everyone but
it's going to
them.
be at least 15.
Okay.
I was thinking 20.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You're pretty good at this.
Been picking your brain for a
Should be
while.
a professional. Yeah, I don't know. As far as other cost stuff, those are the ones. So if you had a sunroom that was really half-assed, then the rest of the house is selling for. And this is where we get stuff where it's tough to make value. If the rest of the house is selling for $100 a foot, that little 300 square foot sunroom is not worth $100 a square foot.
Mhm.
So you can't tack that $30,000 on top of that.
So does
So maybe you
condition-
look at 50% on that.
Does condition of that sunroom matter? Because I'm
Yeah.
trying to close in my.
Yeah, and condition of everything matters.
So like if we raise the floor and the flooring flows seamlessly from my main
Yeah,
living
if
space
if
in.
you walk from the normal house into there and you don't feel that big of a difference,
Right.
then you got square footage.
Okay, okay.
But if you walk out and it's vinyl and you still got the brick wall behind
Right,
you,
right.
and you got concrete floors that are all
Yeah.
split, and you got a $300 window unit,
Yeah.
it's really not gonna be
right,
worth
right.
the rest. Even if
Okay.
we count it, it's not gonna be worth the same as the rest of it.
Yeah.
So, that's stuff I think.
So
to
Taylor
think
says
about.
yes, Johnny, I'm calling my husband.
You want-
Says
Taylor
value
will get a
thing.
call later.
But so that's the one thing that you can do affordably and really increase value.
Yeah.
If you think about it, I mean, if it's 400
That's what
square
I-
feet,
You're
Hey,
already.
you're preaching, that's what
Hey,
I'm
you got it
saying.
recorded.
Oh, good.
You're already under
and
roof.
then obviously the other
Yeah,
stuff that
it's
we'll
under-
adjust for is quality and condition, and those are completely arbitrary and up to our discretion. I love to use like a $20 to a $25. Let's say if we're going from a DR Horton to a Trulin house, and not one of the fancy Trulin houses, a typical Trulin house from a typical DR Horton, $25 a foot maybe would be a appropriate quality of construction adjustment.
That was the one that I challenged and I didn't win. I had DSLD
Mhm.
and they compared it to Adams and DR Horton down in Woodmont. There was no
And it
DSLD
was a
comp
good DSLD. 'Cause
Yeah,
there's some
with a
dumpy
pool.
DSLDs.
in a shop and
Yeah, and so I would always adjust
yeah,
those.
they wouldn't change anything.
Yeah, and then conditions the same. I mean, conditions, you could really do it all under quality, but whether you have molding and whether you have
Yeah.
actually nice stuff. And so that's how we will be able to take a house that's not as nice and still use it as a comp, and you might be like, that's not a comp. Well, I don't have any other option, so this is how I made it a comp.
Well, my argument was like they actually had other DSLD comps, so
Yeah,
why
so-
wouldn't you use those?
Yeah.
But the appraiser was someone, and they would not change it.
With someone?
Someone,
Oh, someone, I don't know.
someone.
I don't know.
George.
No, sorry.
I thought you said someone.
No,
And he was like,
George.
oh,
I
someone.
thought that was, I
Like,
thought
no.
that was code.
No,
That's what I would do.
the husband and wife
Trying to
team,
think of it.
George Sumlin and
Summer?
Summer. Oh, Summer. That's what it was. Summer.
Someone?
Summer someone.
Appreciate it.
And it's obviously easier,
Something like
if you're
that.
gonna do a comp class, it's easier right now to do a comp class than it was a few years ago. Right now you pick what you think is similar, but it doesn't have to be exact because the market's so bonkers.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just no.
And then you
there's-
round up.
There's still no supplies, and then you round up 10 to 15%, right? And then you give
We're
me
not
this.
rounding
Then
up
you
that
give me
much.
this contract to deal with. But in the real world, I mean, you truly need to know that it is a similar home. And so, everything from floor coverings to molding, right, all that kind of stuff, appliances, it doesn't matter. We don't necessarily adjust for those small things in an appraisal unless it's the entire structure, is much nicer, like I just talked about quality. But to say this is a comp, it actually should be pretty similar, right?
Right.
And I think that's where we sometimes run into, well, it was in Fruit and Nut and I'm selling, down by the hospital, same thing. Well, come on, it's not.
Well, and that reminds me too of a thought. So, like, to me, like roofs, so new roof.
Yeah.
That's maintenance. That's not
Yeah, that's-
value.
Yeah,
The
that's tough for us.
HVAC was replaced. Okay, cool. Once again, you maintained your home. Good job. That's
Yeah.
not value.
The good news is there's so many new roofs now
Yeah.
that we can find comps with new roofs typically.
Yeah.
Right.
Just because so many people got a new roof, and we should have started a roofing company. That was stupid by all
Right,
of us.
I know.
You did good.
What else I was gonna say? Oh, and then the other thing. So let's say you're rural, or let's say you're not in a subdivision. So the first thing that I want to do as an appraiser is I want to figure out what your lot's worth. Okay, I know that sometimes it's not the easiest thing, but we know what a lot's worth in Fruit and Nut. We know what a lot's worth right down here on Johnson, and we know in between so we can figure out that part. And then if I need to go somewhere else to get a comp, that's fine, because I know what my lot's worth and I know what theirs is worth, and I can adjust it differently.
Yep.
So I can pull a Fruit and Nut house and use it as a comp for a house down in Golf Course. I just have to knock off $200K
For the lot.
to the lot.
That's low.
Yeah, it might be, but 4 to 2,
For my
somewhere in there.
Oh, gotcha.
my little thing that I do, what we're about to do a comp class, and one of the things I talk about, like you talked about the in-ground pool.
Mhm.
What about things like an outdoor kitchen, or if there's hardwood floors versus carpet or something cheaper, like
Okay, so
what kind of adjustments for those?
yeah, I
things?
do adjust for outdoor kitchens.
Okay.
What I like to do is tie them in with outdoor kitchen storage building or outdoor kitchen pool,
Mhm.
and just throw it an extra $10,000 or something like that. It's
With the pool
100%
or- yeah.
worth it, but it's also a tough adjustment if no one else has one. And that's another thing as an
Right.
appraiser, you got to realize if you see one outdoor kitchen, then everybody else doesn't have one, so I'm adjusting across the board. Typically, the bank's going to kick that back to me.
Okay.
They're going to want someone with that. So if we run into a guest house, I've got to have another comp with the guest house because they
Okay.
will not take
So
it.
you
without
may
it.
just
Okay.
put it under pool instead and not
Exactly.
include the
It's-
outdoor
100%.
kitchen.
Right. Okay.
And there's also, I can also, if I don't want to truly make an adjustment, and sometimes, so we have a governing board body for what we do. They've never talked to me in 16 years, but at some point I figure they may want to. So I try to be a little bit careful with just making ticky-tack adjustments,
Right.
$1,000 here, $2,000 here.
Yeah.
So what I would rather do is say, due to the overall quality and condition of subject property, it is placed on the high end of the range of comparables.
Okay.
Okay, so that makes more sense to me, but that's kind of
Yeah.
just covering my ass a little bit too.
Right. High end of the
Um, But as far as floor coverings, I'm just gonna take that into account. I don't think I'll ever adjust just for floor
Okay.
coverings. If one's got concrete and everything else is high end, really nice, big plank, legit wood, then yes, but I would adjust it under that quality that I was
So
talking about earlier.
your it sounds like your advice would be to find the absolute truest comparable that we can have,
Mm-hmm.
and then work with the other things around it
Right.
to try to piece together and make sure that we've got the value
And
right.
then add 10 to 15%.
Okay.
You keep saying
That's
we're
Marcus,
doing that.
He always.
I know, right?
That's why I'm like, Marcus, what do
Dude,
you think
Marcus
about my
sold
price?
one in River Station for $325. 320. What was it?
I can't remember.
Wasn't
It
it
was
like
over
330?
3.
Wasn't it like 330? I feel like
I cannot tell you how many times I said that's not a $300,000 neighborhood.
Yeah, I know.
Uh-huh.
But we've said that about most not 300.
I know.
Right, whatever
Yeah.
it is, the next 100,000
The
number.
house sold for $1 million across the street from me, and I'm still like, this is the craziest thing's ever happened.
Yeah.
Right?
And then,
Yeah.
Probably sell for more today.
yeah,
So,
I
Yeah.
I
know.
don't know a clue.
I'm the appraiser, but I have no
Yeah,
clue.
I mean, seriously, when we're chasing values.
They're chasing us.
And like I have a strict thing that I sell one real estate thing every single year just to make myself
Steve, you
feel
already got it.
whole. But I have one right now, and I'm like, where do I price this freaking thing? This is it's real. So I get it is really difficult, and I have more knowledge about this stuff than you guys. But still, trying to figure out how the market is going to legitimately react to something until you actually try it, you don't know. So until you actually put
Yeah.
that down and put it in and hit go, it's live. You don't know. So, but that should be telling. That's the market's doing my job for me, right? So it's reacting to it, and I'm seeing how it's reacting to it. And I'm saying, okay, well then that's market value. Or the other thing that we aren't seeing right now, but if a house is on the market for 250 days, first off, right now it's obviously overpriced. But before this big boom, I would look at that. If it was on the market for, say, 3 months, which is pretty typical, and then it sold for list, that always seemed a little weird to me. Why did they get listed then and not before if the market didn't change? So then I would look into it a little bit more. And then they would tell me that they're giving them $20,000 under the table.
Mm-mm.
So, but yeah, a lot of that stuff happens. Just not here, this tremendous brokerage.
That's right.
What?
We better not be doing that
Yeah,
shady like that.
But yeah, that happens.
I'll send y'all's
And we-
license back.
Why in the world?
And it doesn't happen as much as it used to.
Yeah.
Thank goodness.
Wow.
But sometimes you see these old grizzled appraisers that are really set in their ways, and they've dealt with a lot of that in the past, and they are a little bit hesitant on a lot of these deals, especially when they see a thing that was listed at 320 was on the market for 90 days and then selling for 340 without multiple offers. How's that? How do you square that?
Yeah.
And also know that if you guys do personal property, if you add personal property in, we cannot give it one single penny.
Furniture.
Zero.
Yeah.
Now at the beach, we can't give it one single penny, but it's kind of just
Expected.
built in at the
Yeah.
beach.
Because it is a comparable.
Yeah, and so
that condo sold
so
for
that's
this and
where
this
that's
one.
what at the beach gets really complicated, 'cause especially some of
Yeah.
these really nice ones,
Right.
and they may have $250,000 in
Yeah,
furnishings,
easily, right.
Mm.
and then the rental unit's got 50.
Yeah.
So if you don't have that other one that's sold with those kind of furnishings, there's really
Right.
nothing we can do on that.
Right.
But there's so many sales at the beach, you can kind of do whatever you want at the beach right now. So,
Yeah. It's crazy.
How would we provide, or how would you like us to provide the multiple offer situation? Can we just do it verbally, or do we need to?
Yeah, no,
separate
no,
from
don't
the-
take time, just when they call to make the appointment, or if for some reason, so I guess it depends, I always call whoever is on the MLS sheet, right?
Mhm.
So if I call you, it's be like, hey, it's under contract for this, we've got 3 or 4 offers, if you need anything, please call me, if you run any issues, please call me, let me know. That's it, super simple, but let me know about that, and then when I start running into problems, then I'll know, okay, I'll call him.
Mhm.
But if you pick up the phone and you're like, I'm gonna be great today, and then maybe I'll call the other agent, and they might not necessarily have all the information, right?
Right.
So yeah, but please give us, and I've always said this, and still people don't do it. If you really are freaked out about a property, I would never care if somebody leaves comps on the counters either.
Okay.
That's what
I'm not asking.
counter person.
I'm not asking for it, but if you have a fact sheet about the house, something you think I need to know,
Right,
because
yeah.
I'm telling you, I'm rolling through that thing pretty quick, right?
Uh-huh.
So especially stuff that I wouldn't visibly see that there's even been a few where just the way I stood and the way I couldn't tell it had a new roof. I didn't, and
Right.
so I needed either in the MLS sheet or somewhere to know that, because I might have missed that if I was rolling through really quick.
Marcus does a fact sheet like in
Yeah,
a frame.
fact sheets are awesome.
Yeah, I do that too.
Yeah, and make sure that they're sitting there when we come do it, and that's great. I will grab them. I can't speak for everybody, but I think most people will.
Yeah, I think they're very beneficial.
Because I think that most appraisers, especially as busy we've been the last few years, have realized that messing up stuff is really not a great business plan.
No.
Well, and as many as y'all are doing, something's gonna get messed up
Yeah.
eventually,
Yeah.
just because of how many you're going
Well,
to.
I mean messing up values, but yeah.
I mean, like even just memory, like forgetting
Yeah.
something.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's a ton.
And that's the reason we take so many pictures, but still, every once in a while.
Oh, and there's so much lag time too. It's like we're seeing today, you're seeing 30 days from today.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in the market
The
that
market
changes
could
so
shift.
quickly, that's significant.
Yeah, this
or it can be.
this has been tough. Trying
Like
to
my
catch up.
house, my personal house that I sold, I thought I was pushing it, and then I had an appraiser call me and was like, "You gave that thing away."
Yeah.
Like, oh my god.
That's right. From the time you thought about selling it and putting the price on it and got it under contract, 10 more things
That is
happened.
not
Right.
something
Let's just go and.
No,
I know.
Yeah.
Take
Not
it back.
good.
But there's still situations right now, if you've got an acre of land and you get a lower end Adams home on it, I don't know how I can not appraise it for $50,000 more than you have in it. Right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's still happening, because
That's right,
if you're
yeah.
building for cheaper right now,
Right.
because typical building costs are so expensive, and you asked me the question a couple of weeks ago, are you trying to move forward with, are you taking building cost into account?
Yes.
We are in our cost approach, but that really doesn't have a ton to do with the appraisal. We just have to put it in there. It doesn't really affect the value, but we're taking building costs into effect when we make adjustments on quality or on condition or on garage, because we know it costs more, any of that kind of stuff. Yes, we're trying to. But, up until 2 years ago, I was still putting $100 a foot to build a house. It's not
Not
the
the
case
Not
anymore,
anymore.
right?
250.
Yeah, it's crazy. I built mine for 120 in 2016, and I asked my builder, and he said it'd be 235 right now.
Yeah.
That's $115
Yeah.
I don't have to.
in 4 years. It's crazy.
And then like people who bought lots are trying to sell them because they're like it's too
I
expensive.
have a
to build.
question, sorry.
Let's do it.
So if there's a house and there's not like a whole bunch of comps, like really that are the same as that house because it's older,
Sure.
what's the difference between like age of home based off those comps?
Okay, so here's what I do on age if it's a big difference. So I would love to not adjust for age if everything else is similar. So I don't really care if you're a 60-year-old house and I'm using 40-year-old house comps if you've been fixed up. Because
Okay.
what that does, that changes the effective age of your home. So if you're a 60-year-old house and you just completely renovated it, I'm gonna put the effective age at 10 or 15 years. Okay, so that's one thing. So then if I'm using a 10 or 15-year-old comp, then I'm good.
It makes sense.
But how I do it, if there's a big difference, is I do 1% a year, and it's really just fairly random. But I take off the site value. So let's say it's selling for $300,000, or it sold for $300,000 and it had a $20,000 lot. I'm gonna take that $280,000 and I'm gonna take 1% a year. So it's $2,800 a year. It's not that much.
And that's if it's not updated.
Right, but then you're gonna add 20, essentially then you're gonna do the 20 years. Okay, now it's a pretty decent adjustment, it's $50,000-$60,000.
Yeah, okay, so 1% a year reduction for the value of the what now? Of the
Actual
lot-
structure.
The structure.
I'll just take the lot value off.
Of the structure, okay.
And that's just a way, to me, that's the only way I know to do it without just grabbing a number out of the air. That makes sense to me, and it still can be conservative. Now, that brings up the case, what if it's a 6-year-old house and a 2-year-old house? Okay, then I'm probably using more 2 or 3% a year.
Okay.
But it's all just
in his brain.
It's all just feel, and so half the time it's probably wrong, you know? But it serves the purpose, and it protects me a little bit when I have an actual way I do it instead of just saying 20K. Because if someone asks me, why did you make a $20,000 adjustment?
I made a
All I can
percentage
say is 'cause
adjustment
I know
based off.
everything, but that's not true. If I say I did, 1% a year, that makes sense to me.
Okay.
And you gotta think too, houses are not cars. Like, it's not gonna depreciate away.
Right.
Unless it's trailer.
That's
Yes,
different.
that's right.
But yeah, so everything's got an effective age. So a typical house, it has an effective age of 60 years is how we look at it. And so if it's, 60 years old and has never had one bit of maintenance, it's probably done. Right? So,
Whose lender's list are you on?
I don't know, most of them.
Okay.
I mean, I do a bunch.
On this wall.
I'm wondering if a bunch is not gonna. I'm wondering if I'm not gonna see a bunch of your stuff from Movement anymore.
No,
Okay.
you will not.
Sorry.
That's all right.
That's why I was trying to figure out what lender's list you were on.
So I've over the years tried to make a more concerted effort to do business for smaller banks, as opposed to I don't do anything for regions.
Okay.
Because I despise it, and I despise them asking me so many questions. So I do most of the small banks around here, and most of the small mortgage companies around here, and then some bigger ones. But
Okay.
I don't know. There's not that many that I would.
Are you on Aaron Jensen's
I don't even know who that is, so I'm gonna go with yes.
Homestar?
I don't know.
Okay, you need to be.
Homestar.
We need
That's
to
who
tell
y'all are
him.
pushing people.
Get him Aaron's card.
We do like him a lot.
Is it local?
He's local.
Really?
Drive area.
Yes, I'm on area, but now
Or,
First Horizon.
what's Kelly's?
Right, so you
Home
are on
Big
them, okay. 'cause
Home
they're on
Spire?
ours too.
No.
Say
See,
mortgage.
you need
I
it.
also
Spires
haven't
Kelly
tried to
Mortgage.
cultivate business in 3 or 4 years, so
I
maybe.
understand.
Bay Mortgage.
Brad
Say
Moore?
that.
Yeah.
Are you with Brad Moore? Bancorp South?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Stephanie Messenger, First Bank.
Wow, look at all these.
We've been hit up by the
Man, now
lenders.
you're gonna make me go call on people. I haven't done this in years. But yeah, you guys are gonna be doing so many bazillion dollars worth of business. It would be
Be
behooves me to do that,
advantageous.
right? Yeah.
That's right.
Anybody got anything else? Yeah.
Oh, I wanted to ask you, because you called me about the Seminole House.
Seminole House.
You
Your
called me
personal
earlier.
house?
I think you were trying to, value land over there
In Seminole.
behind Coffee Loft.
Oh, there. Yeah. Okay.
In Fairhope on
Okay.
Seminole.
What did I call you about?
You were calling
Land.
about my
Oh,
house.
did you
Your
wanna
house
know?
that you had bought.
His personal house.
What did I ask?
And I'm like, you're not getting to the point.
Well,
Yes,
I think
It's very
Very
That's
vague.
a
Cloak and
jog your
dagger
memory,
here.
'cause I don't know what you were just asking about the condition of the house.
Okay, so did it go through MLS when it sold?
Yeah.
Okay, so I was probably just needing a comp and was trying to figure out, maybe I saw something in the picture that made me think it was in disrepair or something like that. But I obviously needed it if I called you to use it somehow.
He definitely
He
updated
gutted
it. He gutted it.
So maybe that's what I was asking, is what kind of
There's a-
condition the house was in when you bought it.
I know they sold a lot, the next street over, just the land, so I was wondering if it was that.
Yeah, it could have been that. I don't remember that specifically, but
Because they were high.
But yeah, know that if we call you guys about one of your, and that's what
There's a
does
reason.
stink for us. I know how busy you guys are, but if we actually call you about hey, this is Taylor Parks. I just had a quick question about a comp. Please, man, if you could somehow find 3 minutes to call me back, Cause it's gonna affect another deal.
Well,
And
hey,
if
the
I
way
don't get that information, I can't use it, right?
the way I look at it is, I'm gonna give him that information. So if I need to call him, like, hey Taylor, I need to pick your brain for just a
Exactly.
minute.
Yeah, right?
We're gonna reciprocate.
We're all
Yeah.
working here together.
You
I got
know?
your back, you got my back.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so I'm sure that was something I needed to comp, and I just, from looking at the pictures, I wasn't sure what to do with that
Would you
one.
ever ask for our client's info?
Never
I've
in a
had
million years.
another appraiser call me before and say, hey, can you give me
It's
your
like, I didn't
client's
realize.
info so I can ask them a question about the house?
Oh,
What?
Can you just ask me?
no, I would never done. I don't.
I didn't think the appraiser was
was
supposed to talk to them. Really.
I mean,
I mean, they
this
can.
was
They
a house
can,
that had
but-
already sold,
Uh-huh.
and it was a situation like what he's doing, but he's like, can you give me your client's info?
Oh,
so I
to
can ask
ask them.
them?" And I was like, I don't know if I can give you my client's info. But I asked them, and they were like, no, don't. give me
So were you unable?
I would've just said,
were you
"Can I
unable
help
to
you?"
answer the
Yeah, I
They
was
question?
didn't even ask me the question.
Huh.
They just straight up asked for my client's
Maybe there was
info.
something else going on. Maybe they were trying to.
Maybe you
like,
wanted to buy
make
the
an offer
house.
on the house or something. Yeah.
What is it, Dior?
What?
Was it a Dior one?
No.
Because I've had a few, an attorney that was going through the Dior Horton stuff.
No, this is a couple years ago.
I'm gonna stop the camera. Are we good?
Yeah.
Okay.